What's going on YouTube? OCD for EDC here, and what I got for your face balls today are 3 brand new Spydercos. And we're just going to go ahead and get right into it here. These happen to be 3 different versions of the exact same knife. And the knife that we are talking about here is the new Spyderco Tenacious Lightweight. I actually do not have a standard Spyderco Tenacious to compare it to, so we're just going to take a look at these guys. And I just received them a couple days ago, and they've just been sitting there, and so I decided to pull them out and just kind of give a quick little overview and first impressions. And it's not going very well at the moment here. My hands will work a little better. But so you can see here, this one is partially serrated. This is the fully serrated. And this one here is the plain edge. So I would imagine that most people are probably pretty familiar with the Spyderco Tenacious. But we'll start things out here with a few size comparisons. Let's throw down, here is the Benchmade Super Freak. So you can see we're not quite that large. And here it is against the Benchmade Bug Out. So, you know, Tenacious is a decent sized knife. And I got a couple others here. Here it is against the Cold Steel 8015. And we'll throw down another Spyderco. There it is against the Spyderco Para 3 Lightweight. So, clear these off the table here. And we'll leave the serrated one out here just for giggles. So what we're looking at is an overall length of 7.794. We got a handle length of 4.414 inches. And a blade length of 3.38 inches. Handle thickness is 450 thousandths, so just under a ½ inch thick, which is a pretty nice thickness. Blade stock on this guy is just under 1/8 of an inch at 120 thousandths, and on this plain edge version here, behind the edge thickness was actually pretty nice. It's 20 thousandths from right here at the heel of the blade out to just about where the belly starts to get a little steeper, and where that belly starts, it gradually increases from 20 thousandths. Right at the very tip, it's 27 thousandths. So you do have a fairly robust blade on this guy, and you know it's gonna perform pretty well in EDC tasks. 20 thousandths behind the edge, back at the heel of the blades, is pretty nice. Certainly thinner than some of the Spyderco models. So, you know, it's decently ground. You got a full flat ground blade. You do have the bidirectional FRN scales, just like you do on the Para 3 Lightweight. You can see that the scales here are very, very similar. So, it's the exact same texturing that is on the Para 3 Lightweight. So even though that the Tenacious is made in China, generally, you know, on Spyderco stuff, the different factories have different texturing. But here you've got a Golden Colorado knife, and here we have a China-made Spyderco, and they have the exact same texturing on the scales. So kind of interesting there. I kind of expected it to be a little bit different. But let's take a look at the weight, since this is a lightweight version. So I just looked up the standard weight, or the weight on a standard Tenacious, and it looks like, as long as what's published online is true, it looks like it's 4.1 ounces. So we'll get a weight on this. Yeah, this was the plain edge. And we have, wow, 3.666. So about a ½ ounce lighter than the standard. We'll measure this fully serrated model, see if it's any different. Yeah, 3.644. So a little bit lighter for the fully serrated model. But, you know, these are definitely part of Spyderco's budget options. And you got the same, you know, spoon style clip that comes on a lot of Spyderco's. The way it mounts is a little different. This is, there are other Spyderco models that use this 3-bolt pattern where you have the lanyard tube that goes through the pocket clip. It is a 4-way positionable pocket clip. So you got tip up, tip down, right and left side. You can see that the pivot here on the show side is not tooled. I have not taken any of these apart. Actually, we can do that. Let's check out. Let me grab my tool, and we'll just pull one of these down real quick and see what it looks like inside. I'm pretty sure they ride on phosphor bronze washers. I could be wrong on that, but we're about to find out. So you can see here that before I tear it apart, I guess, let's check out blade steel is 8CR. There you go. And these are all collector club versions. So because I am part of the collector club, I get, you know, each one of these models that come out. So all these tenacious models showed up at the same time. Pivot appears to be T9. T9, that's kind of interesting. Oh, and it was not tight. So that's interesting. And it looks to be the body screws, yes, are a T7. So we've got kind of oddball sizes here, but that's fine. So you got T7 on the body screws and T9 on the pivot. I'm assuming, let me check real quick. Yeah, T7 on the pocket clip as well. So if you go to pull apart your tenacious, don't just assume that it's a T6 because you might strip a screw out. All right. So you can see there, you do have some holes there lightening up the scales, and pretty standard construction really. Nothing too special going on there. You can see it's a steel detent ball, and they've got just some kind of clear grease, it looks like. And then it is riding on phosphor bronze. You can see that you've got a pretty small stop pin there, and we do have a D-shaped pivot. I can see we do have washers on both sides. So pull this. Oh, okay. I was gonna say that's interesting. So the D shape is on the opposite side here. So the pivot is a captured pivot, which is great. And you can see that we've got some on the non-lock bar side or the show side. We have some large holes there, lightening the whole show up. But yeah, just appear to be, you know, stainless steel liners with FRN scales. Pretty standard construction, nothing real special about it. And yeah, you know, it's a pretty decent little budget knife. These things go for the new model sells for, I think it's $45.50 if you were to buy this from, you know, any Spyderco dealer. And I think the old G10 model, I think, sells for like $55, $54 or $55, something like that. So it is a little bit cheaper for the new lightweight version, which is nice. You can see there you got the lanyard tube, and it's not a press fit tube like in the PM2 and the Para 3, or not the Para 3, I'm sorry, Mannix is what I should have said there. So let's go ahead and stick this guy back together. So pretty simple construction, nothing too impressive in there, but you know, a nice decent knife for the money. It yeah, it works well, and I was pretty impressed with the blade grind. I was expecting it to be thinner than what it is. And with these three examples here, I'll get this one back together, and then we'll take a look at, I didn't really look at blade centering and all that stuff, but there was nothing crazy off about them, or I would have noticed right from the get-go. But let's take a look at that really quick. Get these screws in here. There we go. Alright. I got the pivot way too tight. Still too tight. Okay, I got no blade play. Lockup on this one here is about 50%, just a little over the thickness of the liner. Blade is still too tight. Yeah, wow, I got that thing way too tight. Alright, we still have no blade play. Centering looks pretty good. Action is about what you would expect for liner lock. So here is the partially serrated version here. Lockup is right about the same. We'll check that out again. Yeah, lockup looks pretty close. And let's see here on the partially serrated, we have 0 blade play. And blade centering looks pretty good. So we're 2 for 2. And this is the plain edge. We have no blade play. Lockup again is just a little bit more than the thickness of the liner. So yeah, pretty consistent. And now this one looks like it's favoring the show side just a little bit. But all in all, pretty good, for $45 knives. You do have some jimping up here on the thumb ramp, which is nice. And of course, the Spyderco hole. You've got a lot of room in here to disengage the lock bar. Actually, it's a significant amount of space there, so it's very easy to get in there to disengage the lock bar. And there is some jimping on the lock bar there. For some reason, they all came for tip down carry, but like I said, you can switch the pocket clip around. So yeah, that's the new Spyderco Tenacious lightweight in 3 different versions. I did see that there is I don't know if they're doing the black blade in all the versions as well, but I know they're certainly doing a plain edge version with a black blade. So yeah, new budget offering from Spyderco. Honestly, the serrations on this guy really look pretty good. If your jam is, or you want a cheap serrated knife to cut certain things, cutting rope and that sort of stuff. There's certain tasks that serrations do a really good job on. And, having a knife like this around just for something that's serrated once in a while, is kind of a nice thing. I personally am not a huge fan of serrations, but like I said, for certain things, they do really work well. And, something like this, not terrible, they're really cheap. And so, not a big deal to have one of these laying around just for a serrated or a partially serrated blade if whatever you're cutting calls for that. So, ergos are good. I'm sure everybody has held a Tenacious at one point or another. The thumb ramp's great. They just work well in the hand. It's a decent budget knife that they've made a little bit better by making it a little lighter. So it's kind of a cool setup, and yeah, they're certainly cheap enough, and I think they're fairly decent, so if you're looking for a decent budget knife that is under $50, I think this is an okay option, you know, if the size is what you're looking for. And, you know, of course, 8CR isn't anything stellar, and you know, can you do better under $50 going somewhere else? Sure. Uh, but you know, you might get better blade steel and that sort of thing. But you know, really the fit and finish on these guys seems to be pretty good. They're riding on phosphor bronze washers, which is pretty nice. Action is about what you would expect for a liner lock Spyderco, and you know, they're gonna pocket well. The spoon clip's a good clip. You know, from here down, it's the same clip that comes on a Mannix, and that's just it's a good clip. Works well. Actually, comes on a whole bunch of their models. So yeah, you know, I think it's done pretty well. So kind of interesting, and I think it was a good call for them. I think it was a good change to change the Tenacious line up to this lightweight version. So anyway, guys, that's all I had for you tonight. Hope you enjoyed taking a look at these, and we will catch you next time. Have a good one.